it's Rachel here with Senza Tempo Cane Corso. So, I'm here with some of the dogs, just a couple of them. I didn't want to, thank you, Savannah. She got him some water for me.
Mama's not wearing matching shoes.
Savannah, go away, Tattletale. My dogs ate another one of my flip-flops, so I am wearing different color flip-flops till I go to Walmart and I bulk buy flip-flops again. It's like ridiculous, I swear. It's seriously as simple as just not leaving your shoes on the floor, but when you do as many things as I do, sometimes that's a lot to ask. So anyway, you guys, get back over here. Come, preacher. That's so funny. Every time I do my own whistle, all I can think of is Enzo, because Enzo does my whistle. So anyway, so Belladonna, we took her temperature today. Really, dude, you guys were digging over here? Good God, I didn't even see it. I was sitting right here earlier. Must have been this guy here, because I remember seeing dirt on his face. I see you, sweetie. So we took Belladonna's temperature today. Savannah took it earlier. It was 98.2. I took it after that, probably about an hour ago, and it was 97.9. So that right there tells me that we're looking at potential labor of puppies this evening. So I think the reason why her litter is kind of smaller is that which makes sense if she does give birth today. It makes sense with that timeline. So I had an appointment on a Friday to have her progesterone tested, and she really just seemed like she was ready to go. And I, just kind of like, was like, okay, I didn't want to miss it. So we'll let him breed. And, anyway, so we did it, and then I take him in, and unfortunately she wasn't ready. He said she was close. He said probably he said like around that Sunday, earliest that Sunday, preferably Monday. And so because when a male does his thing, his contribution it lives for up to 5 days actually. And so when the fertilization happens, everything just shuts down after that. And so the odds are that that basically, it wasn't, your litter size can depend on what day you do it in contrast to what day is ideal. Doesn't mean you won't get a litter, but sometimes it means the litter won't be as big. So you really want to get it on that day. Not the end of the world, you know what I mean? 6 puppies is not like a super small litter, but knowing that her mother's first litter was 11 kind of gives me an idea of what she's capable of. So the next time we'll make sure to kind of like I'll wait. I just got a little like I was like a little worried of missing it or whatever, which I don't know why, but I always feel this obligation because we always have deposits on our litters, and I don't like to miss a litter because then people have to wait a really long time for the next one. So I'm always really trying to make sure that I do my best to make sure that we can guarantee a litter. But, nonetheless, that's what's going on. So, originally my counting of her labor date was based upon like a Monday of breeding, not the Friday before. And so anyway, so I think, that's probably why. When I took her in for the x-ray day before yesterday, the vet said, he would be surprised if she made it to the weekend. So to be honest with you, she'll probably have them in the wee hours of the morning, which would make it a Thursday, which, is well within that range. So anyway, so we're most likely going to be on puppy watch tonight. We may not be, but, the temperature doesn't lie typically. And I will say she's been off her food. She did not want to eat today. I think I got her to eat a little bit, and it's only because there were other dogs standing around her food and she didn't want them to have it. And even then she wouldn't finish her food. And she's actually been very finicky about her food for the last couple days. So we kind of saw this coming already. And she's already lost her mucus plug, which is another indicator. Oh, and she was under my bed last night, which is another really big indicator. Other than that, just like I said, make sure that you keep your notifications on. If you have, what's the word? If you're subscribed to us, you'll want to make sure you hit the bell and that you say all notifications, because whenever we do a video during the daytime and then we later on do a live stream at night, it doesn't let everybody know. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but it does have a tendency to not let everybody know. So if you really want to make sure you're there for the live stream, you do want to make sure that you're tuned in to all notifications. Trying to think. Other than that, we do have some kind of drama. So I have an individual that purchased a puppy from me out of the same litter that Oso came out of. They purchased a female, and like everybody else in that litter, they were told that if they wanted to have breeding rights, because that was the last litter that I allowed people to kind of earn breeding rights. So basically I would do where you could health test and title the dog, and then you could get breeding rights. And so there were a couple people. One of them was a couple who have a female named Don't Call Me Lyra. In fact, she's the female that I've spoken about that had the best hips that I've ever tested out of my breedings between Preacher and Cashmere. They've already been working on handling her, getting her ready for titling. So they're doing everything that they need to do. The other people that bought a male out of that litter, they're the ones, if you guys remember, they bought Prophet. He's the biggest male out of that litter. They as well, we've been talking, they're going to be getting all of his stuff done as well. They're, under the understanding that they have to get all that stuff done. And so these other people, for whatever reason, are basically trying to get breeding rights without doing anything. After we spoke and I reminded them of their responsibilities to get breeding rights, then they said, well, they would do the health testing, but they don't want to have to title the dog. And they gave me their excuses as to why they think that they shouldn't have to title the dog. And so their excuse is that the dog is a service dog it's a married couple. And one of them is at work. And while the other one is at work, the dog stays with the individual that has the seizures. And basically they're stating that this individual that's having the seizures cannot be without the dog. And so that's why they can't title the dog. They can't be away from the dog. And so I, after hearing this and we talked, and I was like, I spent over an hour on the phone with them trying to help educate them on all the different ways that you can title a dog. Like, you can, and let me just interject this. This is after I spent probably a good 30 minutes trying to convince them not to breed the dog in the first place. Okay. Because of where they live. They live in Wichita Falls, I believe it is, in Texas, near Dallas. There's a lot of Corso being bred over there, especially backyard bred dogs. After speaking with them about the male that they were, looking at, the only thing they mentioned was he was a huge dog. Well, size is not a reason to breed a dog. So, for me, that wasn't a good reason. And on top of that, being that a dog is a service dog, it doesn't really make sense for the dog to be bred because you're taking a risk. Service dog is usually a pretty well-trained animal. It takes time to train them, especially for seizures. And breeding is a risk. There's never a guarantee when you breed an animal that they are going to be able to survive that process. So try to talk them out of it just from that standpoint alone, but it wouldn't work. They were not willing to budge on it. So then I was like, look, regardless, you have to get your health testing done and you have to title the dog. And they didn't want to do that. So we talked for a while and I was able to kind of like let them know about different ways. Like they can handle the dog themselves, or they can do what's called ringside handling, which is where you go to the show, you take your dog, you hand the dog off to a handler, they show the dog and they hand the dog back and you pay them. So there wasn't any, like, they were thinking that, like what I did with Preacher, they're going to have to drop the dog off somewhere. They wouldn't see the dog until the dog was done. And there are people that do that. But it doesn't have to be that way. Not to mention that they could have learned on their own, and they were like, we don't even know how to do that. And I was like, well, neither did the people that had your dog's sister, and they've learned, not even me. I didn't know how. I haven't done it yet, but you know what? I found a place in Austin that charges $15 for a good, I want to say it was like a 2-hour class on handling. So if you want to be responsible and you want to do the right thing, there's always a way. And being that close to Dallas, there's no reason why they wouldn't have that there. So at first it sounded like they were okay with it. And then they sent me this long email about how they thought that it wasn't fair. They spent all this money. They should have just got their breeding rights. They don't care at all about all the people that I told them that spent just as much money as them and didn't get their breeding rights, or all the people that buy dogs from me now that spend more than they did because my prices went up and they don't even get breeding rights. But these people seem to think that they deserve special treatment. And they keep claiming that the reason is, that now they're saying we're okay with health testing, but we don't want to title the dog because, my wife has seizures. And it's like, okay, I understand that. However, then you can't breed the dog. You know what I mean? And having that excuse doesn't change anything for me, especially because of the fact that, if you can't be away from the dog for, let's say, 30 minutes while a handler is showing the dog for you ringside, how are you supposed to exist without the dog for 3 weeks while she's nursing puppies? You know what I mean? Like, that makes absolutely zero sense to me. Or what about whenever the dog, or if the dog was to pass away from that, and then you have no dog? You know what I mean? Like, to me, the two don't go hand in hand. It doesn't make any sense, logically speaking. Not to mention that personally, I think it's incredibly irresponsible to breed a service dog. I think that a service dog is a job in itself. I think that a breeding dog is a job in itself. And I don't think it's fair to take a breeding animal and force them to have to do work like that on top of just being pregnant. I don't know if any of y'all have had children, but I know that when I'm pregnant, and I know that when my dogs are pregnant, all they want to do is eat, sleep, and cuddle. You know what I mean? And I always make sure, I never kennel my pregnant females. Savannah knows that. We never do. They are out 100% of the time. I want it easy street. I want them laying comfortably. I want them sleeping with me. They get absolutely spoiled during that time. And I'm totally fine with that. That's how I want it to be. And I just don't see how you're supposed to have an animal that is supposed to be breeding and, raising, as not raising, but as in creating, they're growing puppies inside them. They're tired. They get nauseous. They can be hormonal. There's all these things that go on. And yet, you want to add on to that being your service animal. To me, it is not fair. It is not a fair thing to do to the dog. And so anyway, they didn't care. They weren't willing to budge on it. And so, I'm very fortunate that, most of my clients have always been very honest. I really haven't had many issues. And I do have people that are following the rules that are not going to be okay with somebody trying to get what they are having to earn without having to do all of that. So I'm quite sure that if it comes down to it, that these individuals will be able to testify for me if in case they do try to take it that far, which I don't know that they will. But if they do, I'm not afraid of that. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm a very open, honest person. Everybody that's ever dealt with me knows that. And these individuals, they're not going to succeed at getting this. They can do what I ask them to do. They can title the dog. They can health test her, and then they can get their breeding rights. But I'm not doing it without it. So anyway, like I said, very, very fortunate that there were other people on that litter that had the same thing. You know what I mean? There's 2 other people aside from them that wanted breeding rights, and they both know and understand and have been complying with the rules. So, and I have lots of evidence to support that. So there's no reason why these individuals would have been an exception to that rule. So anyway, yeah. So Hi, Babby. Hi, Babby. Is your Shooky Bookie?
By the way, he was having it.
Yeah, he's too hot. You could put Belladonna inside too. She's probably pretty hot.
Belladonna can't even like stay outside for much time pregnant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's really hot. You can let her in. In fact, if you would, like, do you mind wetting her down with a wet rag?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, and I guess the point of all this is that to basically let people know that from now on, I will now have a more paperwork, which I know that is tough for people, but because of these people, I'm going to have to kind of protect myself. I can't just do old-fashioned, verbal contracts, handshake, whatever. I'm going to have to have a contract now that people have to sign which very rarely do I ever give people breeding rights. But the thing about me is I don't want bad breeders out there, but I do want to encourage people that I think would be a good breeder. Somebody that's more like Reese and I want to promote people into the breed like that, because there are so many bad breeders that the only thing that's really going to help change the tide is other good breeders. You know what I mean? So when I find people like that I think would be able to be of a good service to the breed, I will in fact allow people to earn breeding rights the same way that I've been doing it, which is you have to health test, you have to title the dog. I even have my breeder mentorship group to try to help educate people as well. But going forward, I will now have a breed and show contract that people are going to have to sign that basically lays out all the details, has everybody sign it, because I can't trust people. And it's really unfortunate. All it takes is one person to ruin it for everybody. But it is what it is. And, that's just kind of where we're at on it. And so that's what I'm going to be doing from now on. And so if you ever do talk to me and we ever do, decide on that, then now you'll know why we have to do that. And that's about the long and short of it. So that's what I've been dealing with. That's why I really haven't been uploading as much. It's stressful to do, you know what I mean? Like on top of everything that I'm already doing in my life and raising my daughter and, taking care of this property and having it grow and, and doing these dogs and training and also taking the time to talk to people like my, people that are on my Patreon. They call me, for training advice, stuff like that. Like I'm typically not off my phone, but maybe, 20 minutes a day. It's pretty ridiculous, but I thrive off of that level of, interaction in my day. I really do. I like to be very busy, but whenever I get stuff like this, it's like, this is just stress, it makes it a little bit harder. And so doing something like a video, becomes more work because I have to be in the right mood. I don't want to make a video and just sound angry. You know what I mean? I know that some people that don't know me think that I'm angry all the time with my dogs, because I have a firm voice, but I know when I'm actually angry, and I don't want to be that way. I want to be happy and kind of, teaching you guys and showing you guys what's going on. And I don't want to just be grumpy. You know what I mean? And so when I'm dealing with stuff like that, it really aggravates me. I do not like people trying to manipulate and trying to kind of get one over on me. It is an area where I have a very low tolerance. And so it, takes me a little bit to kind of work through it emotionally to where I'm not, where you can't really tell that I'm upset, because I am one of those people that wears my emotions on my shoulder. Or on my sleeve, I think is what they say. So nonetheless, that's kind of what's going on. That's why I've kind of been a little MIA. And, I've been trying to get all my ducks in a row, getting all of the screenshots from messages where I was talking to people, particularly in that litter, to kind of back up my side, which is that it was something that I would talk to people about. You know what I mean? I wasn't the biggest on the paperwork side of it, which is a mistake that I will now rectify going forward. So anyway, I'll update you guys on what's going on with it, but I would really like to know, in y'all's opinion, do you think that I'm being unreasonable by thinking that it is, maybe irresponsible to be breeding a service dog? And do you think that an excuse of not wanting to be separate from your service dog is a reason not to title the dog for breeding purposes? You know what I mean? Because you guys have seen, you've seen how it is with all my other litters. When I breed a female, she stays in the whelping box for 3 weeks. They don't come out. You know what I mean? And not to mention, like, the last, especially the last 2 weeks, but really the last month of a female's pregnancy, all they want to do is sleep. They're uncomfortable. They're grunting. It's not, anybody that's had a child knows, it's all you can do just to survive, just to try to be mentally okay whenever you're that uncomfortable. You got, baby kicking you around, everything's making your stomach upset, you're nauseous, you're emotional, you're just trying to get a good night's sleep in, let alone having to be, carted around, being somebody's service animal. You know what I mean? Having to keep your eye on them, assist them. Like, I think it's too much to ask for. But if you think that I am wrong on that, I would love to hear your opinion. I would love to hear what other people think. Maybe you've had a service dog and you bred that service dog. You know what I mean? Let me know what you think about that. So anyway, like I said, I'm not in the service dog community, so I would love to hear what the service dog community thinks about it. So I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll talk at you later. Bye.